Hey everybody, this is Perch. What do we got here? This is a very simple mail. It says, "Oh, great and wise Sensei Perch." You don't have to put wise, great, and Sensei. You can just use two of those. That's probably plenty. Anyway, it says, "What's your opinion on the news of Stephanie Phillips taking over Daredevil in March next year? I haven't read any of her work, but I'm already hearing some people complaining about it. Do you think she can write a successful Daredevil run because we need one after Saladin Ahmed's run?" So Stephanie Phillips coming on to Daredevil. I have seen a lot of people commenting on it, and the comments are not particularly kind. Just people don't seem terribly excited about it. Well, I don't know. I'm sure they're out there. Like, there's got to be a couple people on Blue Sky saying this is going to slap, but um, I haven't seen a lot of enthusiasm, and the negativity I've seen on it is like, Jesus Christ, why are they giving Stephanie Phillips more work? Um, you know, that's about it. In my opinion, look, sight unseen, who knows what she'll do? And I will preface this by saying, at any point, somebody can have an idea. Like who knows what her idea is? She may have a pitch, a hook, something that is just going to be incredible. If I was going to pitch, well, I'll get to that in a minute. But I think Daredevil, first off, is a hard character to write by and large. I'll just say that on the offset. I think you've got to kind of balance. It's a superhero. It's street level. There's a desire to go too deep into the legal aspect of his personality, the Catholic aspect of his personality. Like, he's got a lot of things that an artful writer will weave together in a pretty compelling story, and a clumsy writer will kind of overemphasize one of those things and just make it kind of Daredevil, but there's more courtroom drama, or Daredevil, but we're going to get a lot of scenes of him talking to Foggy, or Daredevil, but he's questioning his faith, or Daredevil, he's got ninjas after him again. That last one, of course, we've seen good and bad versions of that. So who knows? But I think Daredevil, there's this desire to go, well, I'm going to write a street level take, which means, Daredevil's going to need to fight street level things, which means he shouldn't be fighting real, like big costume villains. He should be fighting, like, I know, and then people get too clever with it. They're like, what if there's a supervillain who is trying to gentrify the neighborhood, but in doing so is like getting rid of all the black people. So it's a white supremacist gentrifying Hell's Kitchen, and Daredevil has to fight him both in the courts and in his superhero costume. He's got to, because this guy is scaring people away, and Daredevil is trying to help this stuff in the courts. So he has to kind of protect the citizens who are being chased out of their homes, but he can't do so in a way that's going to, violate his case and make him have to recuse himself. Just you get it, and you're like, that may sound like a good idea in your head, that you're able to fight a villain on two fronts. But we've seen those, and eventually what happens is the writer's like, fuck it. You know who's behind all this, really? The Kingpin. And then you get another kind of Matt Kingpin showdown. And at some point, Bullseye comes in and does something, but, Matt defeats him. We've just seen too many of kind of those type of comics. So hopefully Stephanie Phillips has a unique idea. Now, I would say, number one, Daredevil's a hard character to write by and large. I think it's filled, like I said, it's filled with a lot of traps that you can get into, and then it makes for a less interesting story, even if it sounds kind of interesting in paper. In addition to that, I think Daredevil, I think that's bad casting for what Stephanie Phillips has done. I've read some Stephanie Phillips work. So Stephanie Phillips right now was, before it got interrupted, is writing Phoenix. This is the Jean Grey in space comic. She is doing, I think it's still ongoing, the Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider series that started last year. She did some kind of anthology comic. She's done, what else did she did? She did the Rogan Gambit series a bit ago. She did Cosmic Ghost Rider. Not the original, or what was it, the original? Anyways, no, definitely wasn't the original. It's a couple of years ago. This is post Donny Cates crash out, I think. Anyway, she's done some other things. I think she did a Black Widow book, if memory serves, and she did the Cap Wolf and the Howling Commandos. Anyway, And I think she has some stuff in the current Age of Revelation. She's doing binary. It kind of fits somewhat spiritually with Phoenix, not really, but maybe. And I think she's doing the Planet She-Hulk version. Anyway, that's I and I she's done other things, but based on those writings, and I've read several of those, um, this doesn't seem like a great fit. If I was to do a good fit for Stephanie Phillips based on what she writes and seemingly seems to want to like to write, then I think Stephanie Phillips, put her on Hellcat. Stephanie Phillips on. I mean, I think she probably works if the series is kind of a female protagonist. Um, the action is more down to earth. I know she's writing a cosmic story right now at Phoenix, but if you look at how kind of like the Thanos and some of the order is written, it's the stakes aren't big and cinematic. I think she's probably more comfortable writing, comics with a more enclosed environment. Is certainly how it comes across. Her Ghost Spider series is better than her Phoenix series in my book because I think it fits a little bit what she does. So I mean, look, I think you could do something where it's some kind of spy espionage thing with Black Widow. I think you could do that. But Daredevil, I think it's bad casting. I just think if you were to figure out somebody to write Daredevil at this point, I would try and, I would go for like a Reacher type story or something that's a little bit more gritty, a little bit more. Daredevil doesn't have all of the infinite resources that an Iron Man has. I mean, even Spider Man being broke as shit, still like he's like my pal Normie is going to hook me up with suits and tech. I think that Daredevil is best in like he's a boxer in a sense of he's gritty. Yes, he's been trained by ninjas and he got all that kind of stuff. But I think he's best when it's like you've got to have a just grittier story. It's grit. That's better for Daredevil's tone. That doesn't seem to be what Stephanie Phillips likes to write. Marvel in general does what I was mentioning earlier. This idea of like kind of let's take a concept and we'll make it kind of silly but not too silly, and so it becomes a little bit of the hey, what if it's the Hulk, but the Hulk is actually he's trying to be a scientist because he's trying to fight climate change. So as Banner, he's trying to do sciencey stuff, but the eco terrorists or make him turn into the Hulk, and he smashes the resources and gets discredited. So then he's got to figure out a way to kind of control the Hulk side of him. But I mean, I don't know. I got bored with that pitch. If I was writing Daredevil, I think what I would do is I would lean a little bit into the idea that this is a self-made man. He has some friends around him, certainly, but he's never been the kind of member of the Avengers or the kind of the filled with kind of the glory or the tech. He's done it on his own. And so I might lean a little bit into a personality type of, yes, he has a small group around him, but he actually takes pride in kind of doing it on his own. He's a loner somewhat by choice. In terms of, he doesn't go and jump in and is a kind of on a superhero team with a bunch of other superheroes. He prefers kind of solve things his own way. And in my pitch, I'd probably have him. I mean, you could, maybe you start out with something that is organized crime based, but you've got some superheroes or villains involved in all that. You got Tombstone in there. You give Spider-Man a break from that and have actually Daredevil go, I can fight organized crime in a different way. I'm grittier. I'm street level, and have him get quickly over his head. Maybe you do a little bit of Daredevil get slightly cocky because it's like I can handle crime. The other flashier superheroes are out there fighting Thanos, but I can handle an organized crime ring. And then you realize that like no, actually there's some pretty major supervillains doing this stuff. They are sadistic. They don't play by the same rules, and so Daredevil gets kind of in over his head. But a little bit of his arrogance makes him say, I'm not going to call for help. I'm going to figure out a way to win here. And also, you can play in a little bit of legal stuff. It's like I got to take him down. I got to take him down the right way. But you get this story where I would set up an arc where issue after issue, Daredevil is getting in more over his head. He's getting more and more. Um, it just the odds are clearly stacked against him, but everybody, the reader knows it, his friends know it, but Daredevil is not recognizing it, or not. Matt is just kind of ignoring it, or he's going to push through anyway because he's determined, and just have it kind of break Matt down, not emotionally, not the way we've seen it before, not with like Born Again, but break him down from just like kind of exhaustion. He's fighting, he's battling, he's trying to clean things up, he's trying to do the right thing. He knows he's over his head, but he can't stop now. And just have him like you basically, it would take a really skillful writer to set it up where the crash is clearly coming, where things are going to get really, really bad, and then he's really going to be digging out of a hole. And that's maybe, and by the way, I'd keep the Kingpin and Bullseye and some of these standard villains out of it. I would have him really like, here's what it means to go up against a crime lord who, goes toe to toe with Spider-Man and wins some of the time. And Daredevil's like, whatever you do something very, very dramatic, buried alive, drowned, just really having to suck it up. And then the second part of that arc, or the second part of the story, is he does have to reach out for help. And so he's gathering some people around him, and the people who he gathers is actually really important. It's not just you call up Luke Cage and Spider-Man and Punisher and you do some stuff. He actually is thoughtful about who he gathers to his side and who kind of helps him in this mission to do the right thing. And I don't know. This is too ambiguous what I'm describing, but the tones here would be he's up against odds that are too big for him. He's having to really dig deep into himself to just survive. He realizes that survival is not enough. He's actually not winning. He's not making progress because he's just surviving, and that's not helping anyone. So how does he actually move from surviving from fight to fight to actually, winning and coming out on top? And, I would probably stay away from ethical dilemmas of like, the legal side of me says no, or the Catholic side of me says no, but the Daredevil says yes. I'd actually try and give something a little simpler where you get down really to the core of who the character is. You pull those other elements. I'm not saying you ignore them, but that's what I would do. Anyway, sorry, I went way off track there. What would you do for Daredevil? Let me know in the comments below. Are you looking forward to Stephanie Phillips' run? I just, I'm being generous. I'm sure some of you would be like, this bitch can't do anything. And that's fine. But in my mind, the simpler form is this doesn't feel like a great match, but who knows? Maybe she's got some amazing, story in her mind, and we're just going to get the run of all time, and we'll all eat our words, and that would be awesome. So maybe, do you think this is good casting? Do you think that she's going to do a good run? Be that person. Let us know in the comments. You have confidence. Make mine Marvel, right? Thanks for listening.